The impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua by President William Ruto and his team has been a process. There are various activities that happened that now culminated to the impeachment process in the Parliament of Kenya. Now, in this video here today, I want to take you through on what happened and how eventually it came to this impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. But before I do so, kindly, if this is the first time you're watching our videos, please make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment, because that is the best support you can always give this channel. What was the first step? Now, we had rumors before that Rigathi Gachagua and President William Ruto were not in good terms. Sometimes we hear that Rigathi Gachagua has been denied a chopper to go to some place. In some places they say that his journeys have been cancelled, his travels to various places have been cancelled. So that is how we started knowing that Rigathi Gachagua and President William Ruto are not in good terms. However, there is a time they marked now the beginning of this impeachment process officially. That the first one was the Gen Z and millennial protest that started in the country. That was the first mark of Rigathi Gachagua's impeachment. Why am I saying so? The protests, the moment they occurred, and Rigathi Gachagua was not speaking the same language with the president of Kenya, the president and his team linked the protests to him. Despite that the protests were organic, they decided now to link them to Rigathi Gachagua. Linking these protests to Rigathi Gachagua means that Rigathi Gachagua is now against the government and is out to fight the government. So therefore, that could be that was an ideal public ground to frame Rigathi Gachagua as an enemy of the government. They tried to link him to that, and actually, which is also an offense up to this point, but they did not find substantial evidence towards it. The next thing was, the government started talking of now, after the protest had occurred, there was attempts to overthrow the government. And actually, the government even called the protesters as criminals. That through with President William Ruto. During this time, Rigathi Gachagua was still sidelined. He was not still working with the government. And actually what he did, even held a press conference from Mombasa, where he was accusing some agencies of the government from failing in performing their duties as per to the Constitution of Kenya. One of the agencies that was attacked by Rigathi Gachagua was the NIS. That means Nuruddin Haji failed during his job. And those are the words of Rigathi Gachagua. So, when the government was trying to fight Rigathi Gachagua, blaming him on protests, organizing protests in the country, Rigathi Gachagua was smart enough to direct the blame to the NIS. And as a result, we had now the government feeling that Rigathi Gachagua also was against the government because he's fighting critical government agencies. That was another step that was taken. Rigathi Gachagua fighting back, but now in his fight back, he was now framed to be fighting the government agencies, and that was very wrong. Another thing that happened, it is that there were allegations of attempted coup. People are saying it was just an attempt of coup, attempt of government overthrowing by people going to parliament buildings, burning parliament. The president himself said that this was an attempt to overthrow the government. So during that time, we had a scenario where the mess was taken from parliament, actually the Senate, and so many things happened, occupation of parliament, some people got killed, and it was said that there were goons that were installed there to do that specific job. But in real sense, it was the Gen Z protests that were protesting across the country, agitated by the actions of the members of parliament who voted yes despite the protests going on in Nairobi. The news was all over that they are still voting yes. So therefore, it was very clear that these protests were organic, but the president said that now, according to the president's people, that there was an attempt to overthrow the government, and that is one of the things that Rigathi Gachagua is accused of. Based on my analysis, they were linking him to that kind of an allegation. Another thing that occurred during the process, it is that after the allegations of the attempted overthrowing of the government, Raila was brought in the government, and the allegation was Raila has come to protect President William Ruto from being overthrown by specific quarters in government. And actually, some MPs like Kimani Ichung'wah said very well that the people who want to overthrow the government are with some of them are within the government. And it was very clear. Rigathi Gachagua was the enemy of the government at that time. So Raila came in, and we got Raila having his people coming on board. Then conversations started that what will happen? Raila's numbers plus those of William Ruto, they're going to be used to overthrow to impeach Rigathi Gachagua. The conversation actually simply started from there. And not to allow this actually go down like that, the numbers were indeed significant during the impeachment motion. We saw how the ODM members of parliament voted, most of them, and of course with those who allied to UDA, they all voted in favor of the impeachment, and they all voted for Rigathi Gachagua to go home. Checking on this process, that means that it was calculated. But from the beginning, according to my analysis, they were first looking for an excuse to get rid of Rigathi Gachagua before. When the Gen Z protest came, it was now framed towards, it was actually associated with the protest. Now, later on, this protest came with other things, and now Rigathi Gachagua was constantly blamed on. But to be honest, there are a few things that Rigathi Gachagua did also that indicated that made him to be very vulnerable to the government, in that anything could have happened to him and the rest of the country might not care. One of them is calling about shares, and I've done a video on this. And one is talking about Mount Kenya issues only. That's another big ground that Rigathi Gachagua really messed up himself. And many others that made him as a deputy president be vulnerable, because he did not have friends who are going to defend him against all these allegations that were made in public. Now, therefore, from this video, I want to say that it is very clear that the government impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua was a well-planned and intentional action, where the government simply want Rigathi Gachagua out of government completely. So therefore, every excuse that was making sense to the government, they were using against him. Now, I'm going to do an extensive video, of course, to talk about some of the suspicious allegations that I saw during the impeachment. But it is very clear that most of the grounds that Rigathi Gachagua has been accused of, one of them being tribalism, one of them being corruption, because he had been convicted on corruption before, and another one, of course, being the fact that Rigathi Gachagua has been championing the issues of Mount Kenya only, and also issues to do with wealth. Of course, that has been an issue. But I'm talking of a few things that I'm going to clear out actually in my next video. Please make sure that you follow. But what do you think happened during this impeachment process, or this whole process of impeachment, that you think critically was an indication that Rigathi Gachagua had been thrown out of the government intentionally? Now, if you check some of the leaders from Mount Kenya, including Ishungwa and many other leaders affiliated to UDA, they all wanted Rigathi Gachagua to go out. Is it normal people from the same region could not sit down and agree on how they can sort out the issues, that they just decided to impeach him? This must be a very deep thing that these members of parliament from Mount Kenya region really had experienced. But however, there were accusations of harassment, accusations of fighting the government from inside, accusations of threats to some of the members of parliament, and those have been very common. Those have been very common in the Kenyan media, because they have been speaking everything about impeachment, and they somehow direct some of these allegations towards Rigathi Gachagua. That's my video there, and they are lighting on some of the steps that I feel led to Rigathi Gachagua's impeachment. My name is Abdul Mukwa. See you next time. Kindly keep following for the videos we do here.